Hello everybody, welcome back to Suburbs of Seattle, or welcome to Suburbs of Seattle. If you are new here, I am a licensed agent here in the state of Washington, the Great Pacific Northwest. And if you are looking to buy or sell a home, feel free to contact me at the number below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can stay up to date on all the latest videos I'll be putting out. And today, you and I are going to be talking about, did you miss the boat? Is it too late to sell your home? Do you have to wait another 3-4 years for the market to reach its peak again, assuming it will reach its peak in 3-4 years, right? In order to actually sell your home. So we're going to be covering all of that and more in today's video, so make sure to stay tuned to the very end. So I want to head right into the data with you to look at average days on market, right? Average days on market talks about how long does a house need to sit on the market before it actually sells. And you know, in September of 2021, we were at 14 days on market for the whole of Northwest MLS. Today, we are up 100% to 28 days on market. Let that sink in. I mean, in March of this year alone, there were times where houses would sell within 24 hours. And now we're at 28 days. Massive change, which came from a massive change in the interest rates, right? That really slowed the market on a nationwide level. It really slowed the market down. So I want to get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty and share some other facts with you guys. Recently, I was sitting with a client of mine in a coffee shop, and we were looking at some of the areas that he's interested in. And what we found is in his area that he was looking at, certain parts of Auburn, Kent, Covington, homes were sitting on the market for 74 days, right? We're seeing this drastic change across the whole market, but I want you to know that if you are a homeowner, according to the latest numbers from in September of 2022, you are still up across the Northwest MLS. Your equity is still up an average of 5.2% from last year. I know that's a drastic change because we were projected to be in the 20s, right? And now your equity is up only 5.2%. Nonetheless, you do still have equity in your home, even if your home is just up 5.2% year over year. You know, with everything that's been happening here in Washington's market over the last few years, I feel like we've been pretty spoiled. You know, equity's growing 20% at a time year over year. I mean, that's insane if you ask me. So the market definitely is settling into more of a normal, healthy market, more of a balanced market where it's not really either a buyer's market or a seller's market. Now, another fun statistic for us to look at is in September of 21, the average listing in the Northwest MLS was selling for about 3.3% above list price. Now we're actually down 4.4% from list price, right? So not only did days on market grow, but also what's happened is homes are not selling for the prices that sellers are listing them at, right? And this is an indicator of a shifting market. And the craziest statistic of them all is in September of 21, we had 7,432 homes that hit the market. Right now, we are up almost 79% in inventory. And this September, year of 2022, we had 13,284 homes hit the market. Like I said, that's close to an 80% rise in inventory. And what that's been doing is prices have been slowly coming down. Days on market has been going up, and it will continue to do so for the time being. Now let's get to the fun part. What should you as a seller do in today's market to make sure that you can maximize on what amount of money you get in your pocket? The first thing I'm gonna mention is true for any market, whether it's a seller's market, a buyer's market, or more of a balanced market like it is right now. The number one thing to do in order to get top dollar in your pocket is price your home right. If you do not price your home right, you will end up sitting and being one of the homes on market that sits for 100+ days Everybody thinks and looks at you like a piece of stale bread. Nobody wants to come up and look at your listing because they think something's wrong with it, when in reality, the only thing wrong with it is your price. It could be a great listing. You could have the best of finishes in there and it could be a perfect layout, but the buyers don't care if the price is not right. Remember, a home is only worth what a buyer is willing to pay and what a seller is willing to accept. If you're not even getting any showings, if you're not getting any activity, you have no feedback from the market. And the market are the buyers. They're the ones that have your money. So you have to price your home right. Not what your neighbor sold for 6 months ago when interest rates were at 2.5%. Different ballgame. Right now, what we need to do is we need to actually look at pending listings in your neighborhood or within a half-mile radius, right? And I call through those pending listings and I talk to those agents and I find out what's going on. Hey, how many showings did you get, right? What were their responses like? How many offers did you get? Oh, you got one offer and it was 20 grand below list price and you had to pay closing costs as well? Interesting, right? And that brings me to point number 2. Point number 2 is prepare as a seller to give up something in closing costs, because that's what's happening right now. Almost I think every buyer got a contract in the last week or so. Every single one of them got some kind of a credit, whether it be 20 grand, 30 grand, 3 grand, depending on the house price and depending on the situation. But every single one of them got some kind of a credit back. And my sellers that were listing their homes on the market were pricing it right. My longest listing sat on the market for 3 weeks. We sold it at full price and gave $5,000 back in closing costs. I had a different listing in Mount Lake Terrace. We listed it at $1 million. We sat on the market for 2 weeks and we did sell it, thank God. We sold it for $10,000 below asking price, and on top of that, my clients had to give up $20,000 in the seller's credit, so 30 grand less. That's what's happening right now in best case scenarios. Unless you have some cheaper home in the 400,000s that you list for 350 and you try to get some people in. Otherwise, you're gonna give up some kind of a credit, right? Now, sometimes we structure deals differently, depending on the scenario. If we have some competition, one thing we can do is we can have the buyers raise their price. This is what we did on one of my listings in Redmond. We came out at $1 million. The buyers raised their price by $10,000. Then we had an inspection, and an inspection found out that we need about 25 grand worth of work. And this is not nitpicky stuff. There were a few things that were nitpicky, maybe 1 or 2, but everything else was pretty major items, right? And it has to be done. And if you're a seller that doesn't want to do the work or doesn't want to give a credit for that work, you'll end up going back on the market. Another buyer will come in, ask you for the same things because most buyers think alike. And not only will you be dropping your price when you go back on the market, but you're still gonna end up doing the work that you could have done with the first buyer. So be reasonable, be easygoing, know your bottom line. I'm not saying give up everything. Know your bottom line, right? Hey, if I don't get this, I'm out, I'm keeping this house, okay? That's a good thing to know, but be flexible and be reasonable with the buyers that are coming in. And point 3 I want you to know is, remember, as a seller, if you are buying another house, you're buying in the same market, okay? At least here in Washington, right? I have sellers that, sell up north, move down south, right? And really across the nation, it is a different market. So you will be buying more or less in the same market. So even if you give up a little bit, right? Let's say you come on the market at the right price and you get one person who loves your home, right? And that's another thing, guys. I want you to remember this phrase as a seller: motivation beats price any day of the week. I would rather take somebody who's highly motivated to close on my listing but is paying 30 grand less than somebody who's throwing out some number on a piece of paper at me just to get me enticed and then is gonna work me down like crazy, or worse off, bail on the transaction the last day of closing because they're not even serious about that. Do you want to go through that process where you pack up all your stuff and you have everything ready, and then the buyer comes in and says, hey, yeah, unless you do this, unless you lower the price the day of closing or whatever, right? I'm just gonna walk and leave my earnest money, my 10 grand on the table. What's 10 grand gonna do for you? Nothing, right? You have everything packed up. You maybe already found a new place you're gonna live, right? So that's exactly why you want a motivated client over just somebody who's throwing out a number to entice you. So again, going back to my point, remember, you're buying on the same market. If you do things right, if you price your home right, if you have it presented correctly, right? Cleaning it up, staging, decluttering. We do those things right, we'll get a great buyer who's motivated. We might give up some closing costs, but in return, you can go and target a seller that doesn't know what they're doing. You can go and target a seller that's been on the market for 100 days, 70 days, write an offer 50 grand less, and ask for an additional 20, 30 grand in closing costs, right? So if you do this right, you can win in this market as a seller. That's what I have for you guys for today. Please hit the subscribe button. I have a future client form in my description as well. If you want to be a future client of mine, give me a call at the number below that's popping up, or fill out that form in my description, and I would be happy to help you out. Thank you so much to everybody that watches this channel. I appreciate every single subscriber, every single viewer, and I'll see you in the next video.